All right, everyone. Want to welcome everyone back to another episode of the Elite Junior Profiles podcast. I've got my partner, Paul Peckman, here. I'm Lane Houck with Elite Junior Profiles. We're glad that you're with us. If you're listening here, if you're going to watch this, we got some interaction here today. We've got two really great guests as well with Marty Kerr and Coach Jordan from the Worcester Oilers hockey program out of the USPHL. Paul, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Always good to be with you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Same here. Back at you. So why don't you give, for those who might be listening to, for the first time or watching for the first time, why don't you just give everyone a quick intro, a little bit about Elite Junior Profiles, who we are, what we do.
Well, Elite Junior Profiles is what I like to call it. It's more of a digital marketing platform for student athletes in creating a in-depth profile to help coaches, players, recruiters, anybody get to really all the information that they need on this one particular player right there. Everything, what I like to call it, is a one-stop shop. We have everything to make the recruiting process easier. We have made this almost dating game between players and coaches, where the connection is so easy that we're getting a lot of great feedback from a lot of players and coaches on our platforms that have been very successful in connecting. So we're really excited about that, and as we continue to grow internationally with some of the programs that we're in the works with, it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to what's coming down the road.
Yeah, so that's a great segue. Why don't you just give people some highlights of some of our new partnerships that we've recently announced, some of the things that we're doing with some of our newer partners.
Well, we have, as you see here, Vibrero Equipment, which is Andy Sutton, former NHL, who created the equipment and apparel line. And so we partnered up with them, and we're looking to bring that out into any organization in the hockey world and also in the soccer world. They're doing very well on the apparel side as well. So we're excited to partner up with them. Pilot Mound Hockey Academy is a hockey academy out in Canada, Western Canada. And Rodney Collins is doing a great job over there. He's a guy that's been around a long time, coached a lot of successful players, Sidney Crosby being one of them. So he's excited about us helping him get his players more exposure. So looking forward to that as well. This year, Jog College Prospects is a prospect camp in Chicago, Illinois, with Joe Caprio, and we're excited to help him get some exposure for his showcase out there.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're always moving. We're always looking to establish new partners. So if you're a team or an organization or a coach, a league, we've got USPHL as a great league partner of ours. The EHL is a great league partner of ours. But we looked, like Paul said, just to help kind of match up, help recruiters, coaches, teams find student athletes that fit the profile that they're looking for. We'll get into a little bit more with Coach Jordan here. Coaches are looking for specific players. Obviously, at the college level, they've got to find out does the GPA or the SAT score is that going to be in line with what we can get into our school from an admissions standpoint. So college coaches are looking for particular information. That's part of what we worked into and baked into our profile, Elite Junior Profiles. More on that maybe later, but right now what I want to do is I want to transition and introduce our guests, Marty Kerr and head coach Jordan from the Wooster Oilers. How you guys doing today?
Great. Thanks, Lane. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Coach Jordan, how you doing? Great to have you. Thanks for taking time. I know you just got off the ice, it sounds like.
Yeah, we did. It's great. Thanks for having us on. This is an awesome opportunity for our organization.
Hey, you bet. So the Worcester Oilers are just wrapping up a first kind of inaugural season. Marty, I'll let you kind of give us some background on that. Why don't you tell us how the Worcester Oilers are restarting in the USPHL?
Yeah, last year in the 2019-2020 season, the Worcester Oilers took a year off from the USPHL. Now, For those who don't know who the Worcester Oilers are, we're a longstanding organization that, at one point was part of the NA3, part of the Jordan. You'll have to help me with the previous leagues, but previous Tier 2 leagues, Minnesota leagues, things like that. So it's been around and it's been a staple of the Worcester community for a long time. For those who don't know, Worcester, Ohio is actually a community of about 30,000 people with a major college in the middle of town. The interesting thing about Worcester is it's like an oasis in the desert, only instead of sand, it's cornfields, right? If you get off of Interstate 71 between Cleveland and Columbus, you'll go down Route 83 and it'll be nothing but cornfields for about 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden there's a city. So that's Worcester, Ohio for you. And we have a huge fan base.
A nice arena there, though.
Oh, the Alice Noble Ice Arena is a beautiful arena. It's a single sheet arena that has room to grow to a double sheet. And we have stadium seating, the whole 9 yards. As a matter of fact, and this is one of the best things about our juniors program, especially for the USPHL. I didn't realize how few fans actually show up to games at a lot of games. The lowest number that we had during a year of COVID where we had capacity restrictions was 85 fans in the stands. The highest number we had, I can't disclose for legal purposes, but let's just say that the governor of Ohio would not be happy with me. We gave out a lot of volunteer badges that day.
We won't tell. We won't tell. Awesome. So go ahead. So you guys, go ahead and kind of tell us the story of how you kind of came to be involved.
So the previous owners had taken a year off. They couldn't put a team together, and there were health reasons. They were aging, and my business partner Eric Robinson and I, we're very involved in the local community here, and very involved with hockey, which is kind of funny because neither one of us played hockey growing up. Eric is a youth coach, like might and squirt level. And I can't even ice skate. I'm just a hockey dad that really enjoys the game, which has been nothing but a source of amusement for Jordan. And I'm sure the boys are going to end up getting me out on skates at one point or another. So we decided to purchase this from the previous owners during a year of COVID. Of course, COVID wasn't as big as it was when we made this decision. But the first step was really putting a team together. And we couldn't have done that without hiring Coach Roemer, Coach Jordan Roemer. His connections in the junior hockey world and the college world has really helped us put a team together. We had our ups and downs this year, but at the same time, like I told the boys a couple weeks ago, the team this year is a foundation for a future program. And that's really the mentality that Eric and I have brought to how we're doing this. We try to have a very player first mentality, right? I say all the time, and Jordan will tell you that he thinks I'm insane because he knows I mean it. I don't really care about the wins and losses. I want these guys to be the best they can be on and off the ice, the best people they can be. And because at the end of the day, talent will always get found and can always be developed. But character is just something you either have or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So explain what you mean by player first, the player first real quick, and then we'll get to Coach Jordan as well.
Well, I think this year it provides a lot of food for fodder for player first mentalities, right? There were a lot of teams that took advantage of, the fact that Tier 2 didn't happen and there were some Canadian leagues out and things like that. And, you look at their rosters, they got their initial rosters together, and those are the players they go into the season with. And then as the season went on, all of a sudden, a lot of rosters had 40, 50, 60 players on them. Mm-hmm. Eric and I and Jordan made the decision early on that our maximum number, barring injury, was 25 skaters and 3 goalies. Now we ended up with a 4th goalie, but that was a conversation before we ended up going forward with that. But, we kind of went into this year with the mentality of the players that we have and the players that sign with us are the players we're taking to playoffs. And we have our first round of playoffs this weekend, actually.
Awesome. We'll circle back to that maybe a little bit more. Coach Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be head coach of the Worcester Oilers.
Yeah, so I grew up in Canada. I played my youth hockey for my hometown in Cobourg, and before I left to play AAA for the Quinny Red Devils, and then I started my junior career in what was then the OPJHL, now the OJ, for the Port Hope Predators. Spent a year there, and the following year, just kind of a little bit of different circumstances actually led me in kind of the middle of October down to playing in Worcester. I spent 3 years here, won a national championship in my second season, and then I ended up going to Eastern Michigan University, played 4 years there. And once I finished there, I moved into coaching. I was really lucky. One of my good friends, who is now the head coach at Adrian for their ACHA Division I program, was a head coach for a GMHL team, a Tier 3 league in Canada, in Kingsville. He brought me on to be an assistant coach there. And then the 4 years before this year, I've been an associate coach at Eastern Michigan. And then obviously this opportunity presented itself this summer. And it was it's a program that has always kind of been near and dear to me, and something that my wife and I had talked about. If this job ever kind of presented itself, it was always going to be an option. And just with everything going on in the world, and my wife is actually from Worcester as well, so it was kind of the perfect circumstances to get to raising our family back closer to some family, and somewhere that we're extremely comfortable.
That's awesome. Well, that's really cool that you got family there, right there, and your wife's from there. That really makes it a win-win for everybody, for sure.
It did, yeah. It made it a lot easier.
It always makes it nice when the wife is on board with wherever you're going, right?
For sure.
I'm sure it made that conversation of, hey, there's this team that doesn't really have a team, but I'm going to go put it together. So we're just going to move over in the next state.
Right, exactly. And Marty, why don't you give our audience a little background on what you do professionally?
Oh, well, I'm an attorney. Try not to hold that against me. I'm a nice attorney. And you know, my career has been varied over the years. You know, I was an accountant, then an attorney, but I'm not a boring one. Jordan can tell you, I'm actually a pretty funny guy. You know, I kind of run our front office and all of our social media. So those of you who have seen some of our social media and some of our shenanigans, Jordan can tell you that I am in this.
That's coming from your sense of humor.
Oh, it's absolutely my sense of humor.
Take all the blame, huh?
Lane, there are so many times when Jordan has to call me when we're planning something and say, no, we're not doing that. So we try to have a good time. And that's what I said when we went into this. You know, it's funny because people, you know, say Tier 3 junior hockey is a business. And yes, it is. It is a for-profit business. But honestly, if somebody came into my office with this business opportunity, I would laugh them out of the office, down the hallway, down the stairwell, and into the parking lot. You know, so when Eric and I first decided to do this, my response to him was, what the heck, at least we'll have a great time and get to watch some good hockey. And honestly, we've had a wonderful time.
Jordan, let me ask you this. You know, what do you think is the biggest difference from your playing days in the juniors to today's players?
I think the game is just completely different. I think the physicality is a lot lower now. I think the speed is a lot higher now than it ever was when I played. I think some of the skill that some of these kids have, none of the guys my age could have ever dreamed of having, or even if they did have it, it really wasn't a game that you could make pull toe drags in the neutral zone and stuff like that. I mean, you'd get your head taken off back when I played. So, and then I think too, a lot of it is now, a lot of these kids step into junior not really expecting it to be as big of a jump as it is, and thinking that they're coming out of an Ohio high school program, they're going to step right in and be a first line guy. And that's just not the reality of this business and junior hockey. So especially in this area. I think some areas like the Bostons and Minnesotas and Michigans and those have a little bit more junior knowledge for the young kids and the families growing up. But around here, I mean, we've talked about that as an organization. Really, I think since day one that I got hired is about just kind of informing everybody in this area exactly what junior hockey is, and that some of these kids coming out of high school programs, they're not stepping into the NA or the USHL in year one.
Now, do you guys have an elite team or just strictly Premier?
Just the Premier team.
Just Premier.
And do you guys have plans to grow into having an elite and Premier, or do you always just want to have one Premier team and march forward with that?
Right now, I think our plans are one Premier team and march forward. It's given that we play out of a facility with a single sheet and a pretty robust youth program, until there's some growth in the community, I'd see just a Premier program.
Sure. Well, so Coach Jordan, let's talk about your team this season. Where did you talk about your recruiting? Where did you recruit from? Did you recruit a lot of the homegrown players there out of Ohio? Did you bring in players from Canada where you have connections with? Where players who are looking for a home this coming season. Let's talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah. So most of our roster this year is Ohio and Michigan, actually. I have one Canadian, and then actually one of my other Canadian goaltenders has a Canadian background as well, but he grew up and has played in Ohio for most of his life. I would say we're pretty evenly split between Ohio and Michigan. A lot of my connections, just with being in Michigan for the last 4 years, I knew pretty much every high school coach in Michigan. So it's been a work in progress this year, kind of creating some relationships with Ohio high school teams and repairing some, to be completely honest, from the team in the past. So we do look to recruit worldwide. I mean, I've talked to players from I think every state and almost every continent in the world going into this year and going into next year as well.
Well, that's always the fun part is the recruiting trail that you go on, right? And you wind up in showcase, whether it's the global showcase in Vegas or you go into the pre-draft or anything in Massachusetts, right? You got to go to these things. You got to see the players. Now, taking a look at our platform, have you seen, what entices you about our platform?
Really just the availability, with how easy it is to get information on players and stuff like that. I mean, we all know how some of these kids are nowadays with answering emails or answering phone calls even. I mean, a lot of these kids want to do stuff over text message, and it's like, I can't really get a read for or a feel for you over a text message. Like, pick up a phone and give me a call. But just the availability and the easiness to jump from player to player and kind of get all the information that I would need.
Good. Always looking for, want to make sure that we have, I like to think that we have all the bases covered. I've talked to so many coaches in a lot of different sports and kind of get the general consensus of what they were looking for. And that's how we built that profile, the disc enhanced player assessment, disc enhanced profile. But the player assessment for us is what I really, I like it because of it gives you all the intangibles about the kid. Whether, the character, the work habits, their personality, all kinds of strengths, weaknesses, things like that, that you're not going to find in a video. You're not going to read on stats, right? You're going to say, okay, well, you look at stats, he's an average guy, maybe a point a game. Okay, great. But, what's he like in the locker room? What's he like in the community? And that's really why I really this part about it I get really excited about, because, we met a company from Ottawa that actually teaches university coaches how to use this as a recruiting tool. So that's when the bulb went off and said, geez, why don't we just put that in one of our profiles?
Yeah.
This is the easier way. And then you see the report and it gives you all, it's like a cheat sheet on how to coach some of these kids. Their strengths, their weaknesses, do's and the don'ts, and how do you help them improve?
You often get insights. You get insights into the player that you would never even get in a recruiting talk with them, even if it was face to face. There's only so much you can learn about a player in 5, 10, 15 minutes, after a game and a showcase or whatever, learning about them. You read the disc, profile report on them, and you get amazing insights into their motivation triggers, what really makes them tick. And from a recruiting standpoint, I know, as coaches, you want to be able to have a good mix of personalities and characters in your locker room. You don't want all of one type or all of another type. You want leader types, you want follower types. Not everyone can be a leader on a team. And so, that's how when we were talking with this recruiting company, about how they use DISC, it had triggered, thought I had used DISC profiles back in hiring in the corporate world. Before we would ever hire anybody, for a specific role, that role, we would give them a DISC profile, DISC assessment, and then, use that report and making sure they were a good fit for the role that we were hiring them from. So when, I heard this about DISC, and I was like, man, that I could see how that would be really, really valuable for, for coaches and recruiters and even parents. And that's pretty much how they were using it. So yeah, that's a little bit of background on our DISC enhanced profile. And, we actually will produce a whole team report for a coach. So if a coach, so we have some of our USPHL and EHL teams that are our partners will have the whole team, every player, get the DISC enhanced profile coming into the new season. And that way, by the start of season, we can actually then run a team report on every player for the coach that they can put in their binder or, wherever they might have. And now they've got like a 2-page summary on every single player on their team with, what motivates them, how to communicate them, what not to say or what not to do in communicating with them, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. And so, that gives the coach so much more insight into each human being on their team, which is what I'm passionate about. I've got 2 boys who play hockey. And so, once you're like you, Marty, as a dad, right? Paul's got a son who plays lacrosse, but as a dad, you're interested in the human being, your son or your daughter that's playing that sport, and you want the coach to look at them as a human being, right? Not just as a pawn coming in through a business, opportunity called a hockey team or a soccer team or whatever it might be, right? So the human part of the business is really important. Go ahead, Marty.
Exactly. Well, and I can tell you, we're winding down our season right now, and we're coming into playoffs, and Jordan and Eric and I are all having discussions on what who do we want to retain, and like what do we say, Jordan? We say yes, no, maybe, and meh, and I can tell you that in our discussions, sitting around, and I'm this is my sense of humor again, but maybe it's not, sitting around with a bottle of Pink Whitney with Jordan and Eric, and having these discussions, every single discussion on a absolutely yes, we want this guy back. We absolutely need this kid on our team. It's all based on character. Jordan, am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Everyone, and honestly, we had a discussion with one of our players a couple weeks ago, and he said to us, absolutely, we want back. And both Jordan and I were so excited. And I mean, the guy's skill wise, he's average, but I'll tell you what, his energy, regardless of what the score is just worth so much.
What happens, Marty, is that without this assessment, it would take Jordan 2/3 of the season to really start getting this kid figured out.
Yeah.
Right. Now you already know going in.
Absolutely.
That's the difference, right? So, and he's juggling 25 players, right? Where you already know what you're looking at before maybe you even take them. Or
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you wanted to add to it, I could really use a disc assessment on parents as an owner.
There you go.
Get that happening.
That's a good idea right there.
That's a very good idea.
You know,
you
we
should
actually,
do those to Jordan before the recruiting process ends too, right?
well, and you know, I mean, all joking aside, right? I mean, it's a huge factor. You know, there was a whole conversation, the conversation I just mentioned, where we're like, yeah, we all like this guy, but my gosh, mom and dad. I mean, you know, and you know, it may be worth the pain. And I don't say that flippantly. I mean, you know, I kid's a great kid and everything, but at the same time, it's like, you know, you mentioned earlier, you know, what are advice for parents looking to recruit and stuff. Part of it is your behavior. It's not just your player. You know, believe me, if your kid is the most skilled kid on the team and you're up starting trouble in the stands every game, I don't really want him. You know, so
I like this. Let's do a quick session for both Coach Jordan and you, Marty. Some do's and don'ts for parents and players, things that you look for or things that you look for that you just don't want on your team. But I mean, you know, let's do a quick rapid fire session. What are the things that you love that you're looking for? And those are the things that you're going, hey, we want this kid back. And then what are the things that you're looking to either avoid or signs and symptoms of a player or a parent that you're just going, no, thank you.
Jordan, I'll let you go first on that.
I mean, first and the biggest thing for me with players is work ethic and attitude. And I mean, I think as an organization, we're kind of have got to a point that we're just not going to deal with attitudes anymore. If you're not here for the team first, the team goal, to help your teammates advance and develop and move on to the next level just as much as you are with yourself, then you're not going to be a part of our culture. For parents, I mean, the biggest thing that I'm looking for in parents is kind of let your son kind of do their thing and be a junior hockey player and be as supportive as you can and come to games, obviously, and everything like that. But don't get into their head. I mean, I have enough messages that I'm giving to my players and that they have enough information that they're getting that they don't need to be hearing it from you as well.
So you don't need to be their coach, be their parent, right?
Exactly.
That's what junior hockey's for, and that's what they send them to an organization like Wooster for, right? To have a professional coach who's got a lot of experience, who can be the coach and do what he's got to do. Parents, you know, I hear that 100%. Support, just be a great support for the kids, and obviously there's money involved. Got to be a great financial support, you know, right, Marty? You appreciate good paying parents, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, paying's of course important. You know, I've got to be able to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
You know, but I you know, to piggyback on what Jordan said, he's absolutely right. As far as players, it's all about attitude, and from an owner's perspective, you know, one of the things I'm most proud of for this year, if I could brag for a second,
Please.
is that we were able to give over $3,000 to charity this year. We were able to do projects, even with COVID. The boys showed up one morning and helped unload a truck for the local food bank.
Nice.
You know, Jordan even read to the local kids at one of the school events, right? And you know, the ability to do that within our community is so important. So that's the part of character that I look at. How are you with the kids? Are you coming and helping out with the youth kids? Not just because you might get some private lessons, but also because you realize that this is the future of our sport, right? And as far as parents go, Jordan, you nailed it right on the head. I've almost got nothing to say about it. But, you know, the one thing I'll say is let your children fail. You know, as parents, we have to do better. You know, junior hockey is about growth, right? And you know, I always say nobody wants to play in a nunnery, but I'm going to provide them a safe environment where they can make mistakes. And you know, the part of this, whether they're 16, 17, 18, 19, and even 20 years old, is, you know, let's let go of the apron strings a little bit, right? You know, Eric and I kind of laugh about it because Eric, if you look at our website, Eric is a veteran of the global war on terror and has 2 Bronze Stars. he earned both of those when he was 19 and 20 years old. You know, I have a varied past. You know, I left home at an early age and, you know, did my thing and was allowed to fail. And failure is part of growth. And it does build character. And so if your son or your daughter, or, well, your son in this case in junior hockey, is having an issue, I'm an approachable guy. Jordan's an approachable guy, right? You know, I don't think the parents need to be there every day. And the other thing, and I follow this with my own son, you know, from a youth hockey all the way up to junior standpoint, every car ride home should start with, "I love to watch you play." Because if you don't, you're just going to burn them out on hockey. And quite frankly, you know, you're right. You shouldn't be the coach, because unless your last name is Yager or Lemieux or Crosby, I don't really want to hear it. So, you know, and I've had parents even outright text me about, like, why is this person on this line? And my response is always, I don't make hockey decisions, you know, can't even skate here. So, you know, those are the two biggest pieces of advice, that I can offer parents and players. Have a good student, be there.
The bottom line is, you know, you're at a level where you're developing hockey players, but more importantly, developing men. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Turning young, you know, boys into men, and the community service and the things like that. That's stuff that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives. And that's so important. And you're right. You know, they have to fail a little bit. They have to face adversity. They have to understand that nothing is ever going to be given to them. They have to earn it, and that's life.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, nobody gives you anything on a silver spoon anymore. You know, you want it, you got to go out there and go get it.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, Jordan will attest to this. He'll probably be telling this story at my funeral. But, you know, I've been in the locker room after games with, you know, players who literally miss their mom crying on my shoulder. You know, and so, you know, but at the same time, I'm just as tough as them as I am on my own son, which is pretty tough, because he's the assistant equipment manager. So if you guys ever come out to a game, you'll see me yelling at him and him running across the ice at 13 years old. You know, so we treat these players, we look at them as our own children. And the thing I want is for them to grow, right? The thing I'm so impressed about, you know, Jordan didn't mention this, but, you know, the team he was with here in Worcester, there are about 4 or 5 players from that team when they won a national championship that still live in Worcester, Ohio. And a couple of them are from Canada, near where Jordan was from, and they've set up their lives here. And it's funny, because once in a while after our games, I'll see them playing men's league together, and they're the same boys, the same, you know, that have grown into men that they were when they were in their 20s and in their late teens. You know, now they just have kids and they watch each other's backs in a different way. Well, not so much on the ice. I've seen some stuff, but you know, it's exactly what these boys should be aiming for, right? And as parents, we're not raising boys, we're raising men. And it's not an easy world out there, right? We're not always going to be there to fix it for them.
But and there's so many distractions today, as you know, like when we had, right, Jordan, when we were playing back in the day. It's, you know, there's so many other things that you have to worry about that we didn't have. You know, what you did inside the locker room, or what you said, and how you handled certain situations. That was it, right? It was between you and the player. Now everything gets, you know, magnified 10 times over, and it's very difficult. And you have to learn how to. And that's part of going back to what we do. It helps to know who you're dealing with, right? How do you can't teach these kids the same way, because everybody's different.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's, you know, that part of coaching has evolved, especially for me. You know, I mean, and I'll be the first to say it. You know, I've been doing this, you know, 13, 14 years now, and every year it just gets a little bit different. You know, you start to tone it down a little bit. You start to talk a little bit more than yell, right? But and again, you know, in college, you know, at my level right now, you know, college is a results-driven league, right? It's not so much developing. Hey, you know, it's about winning. You know, juniors is helping prepare them for that next step, right? That's so, when I coached in the USPHL I was the elite head coach and the assistant head coach of the premier team. So that my job was to try to groom them to get ready to play premier, and that's all I cared about, making them better people.
Yep.
And so
And
Jordan, go ahead, Jordan.
that was a big thing when I first talked with Marty and Eric, that I was looking for in a junior team as well. Is, yeah, I mean, we all want to win a national championship. Don't get me wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still a hockey player at heart. I'm still competitive, but
Yeah, right.
Most importantly to me is creating opportunities for these kids that they didn't have before they came here. Whether that's at the tier 2 level, at the college level, NCAA, CHA, whatever it is. And one of my the big reasons that I wanted to get back into the tier 3 level is coming from the ACHA. I think that there's a lot of tier 3 programs that are just trying to push these kids NCAA. And I think if a kid has the right opportunity at an ACHA school, like, who am I to say no? At the end of the day, that's a 4-year decision that they have to make. And I don't want to see any of my guys go somewhere for 1 year and then transfer out because it wasn't what they were wanting it to be at an NCAA school.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my 2000 Luke, who is looking at ACHA D1 schools. He's looking at Stony Brook and Pitt and Delaware and Ohio. I mean, West Virginia. He's got all those schools that he's been accepted to, and he's looking at. And I think that's going to be the right place for him. Is he wanted to go to a little bit bigger school, didn't want to have to pay 50 to 60K for the education, or at least start there and then start subtracting if you could get, scholarships or what have you. And so I think you're right, Coach Jordan. I think, too many programs are just trying to get that NCAA label for bragging rights and are trying to and steering kids that may not necessarily be the right path for them. So yeah, good insight there. We're talking today in part, Marty, because, you talked about that player first culture and that mentality that you had, and I think I'd like to maybe wrap up with that. Like, what is it that when you hear player first, I hear that term being, kind of thrown around a little bit more now. What does that mean to you guys in your culture, intentionally? How are you building it? In what, if there's a parent or a player that catches this and is listening, why would they consider why should they consider Wooster as an organization versus some of these others that might be more well known or might have been one of those that had the 50 people on their roster this last season?
Well, I the best thing I can say, and you have to see it to believe it, but Jordan's heard me say this a million times to the boys. In Worcester, we're family. We're always family here, and we treat our guys like family, right? Everything from my wife making sandwiches before they go on a road trip, to making sure that they have, I have you can see the background. I have our locker room in the background. We've invested in the locker rooms. We've invested in new uniforms. We've invested in facilities. We have a strength and conditioning coach on staff. We have group workouts. So we're making sure. So that's the step one, is making sure they have all the tools that they need to be successful. Step two is making sure that they have a culture where they're not only growing and developing from a hockey standpoint, but they're growing as people. Right. So we've done all sorts of events, everything from barbecues to, we went to a haunted house. We went to the largest Christmas movie museum in the country. And even a rodeo together. Right. And it's not like it's just Jordan and the boys sitting there. Like, I'm there, my son's there, my wife's there, Eric's family's there. We take that approach. And the other thing is that, I did a trade about midway through the year for a player. And it's funny because a couple weeks after the trade, he texted me and he said, I just have to say, first he texted me, he said, do I call you Marty or Coach? And I was like, I just call me Marty. Right. And he said, I have to thank you for bringing me here. And because he specifically requested to come here. And I said, well, why? I mean, it was even surprising me that you requested. And he's like, well, I heard about what you were doing. And he's like, honestly, I would rather lose here than win at a place that doesn't that's just going to throw me out like toilet paper if I have a bad night, right? Everyone needs to earn their minutes. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, we're, you know, the team we start with is the team we want to end with, barring any major injuries or anything going on, right? And that's the thing. Like, we want to be just as loyal to you as you are to us. And we want to see players that want to come here and play. And, you know, if you're loyal to us, we're loyal to you. And that's how we're going to be family. So that's kind of my approach. And, you know, yeah.
Coach Jordan, you want to put the emphasis on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, the biggest thing is creating whatever opportunities we can for these guys and doing everything that we can to make that as easy on them as possible. Like Marty said, with our strength and conditioning coach, our video and everything like that is not all just about preparing for this weekend coming up, but also for your college career or the next level, whatever it might be. And then I think the biggest thing for me is, especially when talking about recruiting, like my biggest recruiting tool is my guys going home this summer and skating with their buddies. And they're saying, hey, go to Worcester and don't go to somewhere else. Like, hey, I had a great time here. This is what they do for you. This is what they're all about, and stuff like that. And then most importantly, making this a safe space. My guys all know my office door is always open. If I'm not here, my phone's always on. I don't care if you're having girlfriend problems, if you're having family issues, you're having money issues where you're just not getting your hours at work or whatever it is. I'm here. I'm more than just a coach. I'm here to help you guys navigate through junior hockey. I mean, I was you guys 12 years ago. I know what it's like being away from home for the first time. I know it's different not getting your mom's home cooking or mom doing your laundry, and you've got a little different rules at your billet house that you have to follow. And I understand it's an adjustment for these guys, and I think Marty and Eric do as well, and they do a great job with some of the stuff that I can't answer and for these guys. And I mean, they both make themselves available for our players and everything like that. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is I've told all my guys that once they're gone here, they're always an Oiler. They always have a home here. If they want to, they're on spring break or reading week or whatever from school and they're looking for some ice time, they're more than welcome to come back out for practice with us and everything like that. So that's the most important thing to me.
Awesome. Billeting, you guys, I see on your website here, you got billeting. So players that do come in from out of town or that, you know, you'll recruit in, have no problem. Do you have any players this season that live in apartments together, or are they all in billets?
All in billets this year.
Okay. All right.
All in billets. We have talked to some of our older guys that are looking to return that if they want to do the apartment, that's fine, but that's going to be for kind of held aside for 20-year-olds only.
Okay. Got it. All right. Paul, anything else that you or anything else you guys would like to add or leave our audience with in terms of parting words?
Go ahead, Marty.
You know, honestly, I just thank you for the opportunity, guys. We really appreciate it. And you know, where our goal, when we look up to organizations in here, I mean, our goal is to be a group where, you know, guys literally, you know, live and die by, you know, by the logo, more or less, where, you know, long term, I'd love to see a youth hockey day at Worcester one day that's just filled with former Oilers who are all dads now. That would honestly, that'd be a measure of success for me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, listen, you know, we want to wish you guys the best of luck. You know, we're really excited for you. You know, you got 1 year under the belt here, going into the playoffs here, looking to make some noise. And you know what, Jordan, that's a great recruiting tool, right? You're getting to the playoffs and that kind of stuff. And now you start building on that. It just makes things a little bit easier come spring and summertime, right? So, best of luck to you guys. We're always here. If you need anything, use us as a resource. We'll be watching from afar and wish you guys nothing but success.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for everything.